Alright guys, so today we're going to be discussing a grip and how it can affect your club face, which then can affect what your body can do in your downswing. So we're going to keep it real simple for you guys and discuss two grips. We're going to talk about a weak grip, and we're also going to talk about a strong grip. So I think, Ryan, the first thing we need to do is kind of define what a weak grip is for our players.
Yep. So let's start with the weak grip here. So if I grip the club and my thumb's on top and you can't see any knuckles, that's a weak grip there with my left hand. And then with the right hand, a weak grip would be where this V on my right hand is pointing at my chest or over at my left shoulder. So those are both, with both hands there, a weak grip.
Yeah, and famous players in history that had weak grips, you're going to look at Ben Hogan and also Jack Nicklaus. So I know a lot of readers and people that watch our videos, look at books and stuff. So that'll give you a baseline for what a weak grip looks like.
Yep. All right, let's see the strong grip now. So strong grip, I'm going to be showing, when I look down, I'm going to be showing 2 or 3 knuckles here. And this V on my left hand is going to be pointed over at my right shoulder most of the time. And then with my right hand, this V here on my right hand is going to be running right along my arm towards that right shoulder as well. So if either of those V's are pointed over to the right side, that's a strong grip. Good indicator of a strong grip.
Yeah, strong grips, you're going to have Boo Weekley, Paul Azinger, among others that have a strong grip. And really, it's not about what your grip is. It's about understanding how what you do with your grip can affect a lot of things that you're going to do in your backswing.
Yep.
So let's talk about how a weak grip can kind of set us up for a more open club face for a majority of players.
Yep, so let's set up with that weak grip again. Can't see any knuckles there. V's going to be pointed at my left shoulder. So now if I just take this club back naturally without really thinking about it, what happens there, Dan?
You're going to see that the toe of the club, so this would be the toe, this would be the heel, you see the toe of the club is pointing straight up to the sky. Now, there's people who believe that this is where the club should be for all players, and what we want to explain to you is that if the toe is in this position, like we see more of our higher handicappers, go ahead and continue to the top, Ryan. What happens for most of these players is the lead wrist ends up going into a little bit of extension, or this cupping look that you're going to see that Ryan has. And if you look from down the line on his club face, you'll see that it's on the left side of the shaft and the toe continues to point straight down. So what we're going to say is that for most of our slicers, you now have an option, a couple of options, but what's the most common one that we see, Ryan, with that open club face?
Most common thing we see here is body stalls and flips to get the club face square again.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it also affects swing direction. So if you have an open club face, people talk about over the top, and it's really popular to talk about shallowing the shaft that you'll hear all over right now. And I think what's important to understand is that, instead of just trying to fix what a lot of people will see on video, which is this kind of looping motion or this right shoulder, trail shoulder being very high and this path aggressively swung to the left, we want to look at club face first, because what you're doing is your body's attempting to square up that club face, and in order to do that, like Ryan says, you'll stall rotation, you'll probably slide a little bit forward, and that allows you the time to square up the face.
Yep. So if we were to just rotate from that position up there, so club face is open, wrist is cupped like this, and we were to rotate really well, club face is still wide open. So that's why you have to do these manipulations. It's why people swing left to try to get it square. It's why you stall and flip, because you're trying everything you can do to get that club face to square up, whether you know it or not. Subconsciously, you're trying to square that thing up by doing those things.
Yeah, definitely. And when we look at that problem, the first thing we do as coaches is oftentimes is really dependent on the player, because there are some players that can play good golf from an open club face, but we want to understand if we can get that club face a little bit better for most higher handicappers, because they react in a negative way to that open face by stalling and their swing direction left, we believe that they will react in a more positive way to more of a closed or neutral face.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that you can't play golf with an open club face.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a weak grip, club face is a little open. How can I neutralize that and match it up, Dan? How are we going to fix that?
So there's a couple of things that I like to see for players that are good players and they want to have a neutral or weak grip. So go ahead and go up to the top for me, Ryan.
Okay.
And actually, you're a great example of this because you have a weak grip and your club face is fairly open at the top.
Yep.
Right? So let's talk about your matchup. So when you go to the top, you're going to see exactly what we just talked about. Club face is on the left side of the shaft and this wrist is extended. So what you do is you'll keep this shoulder closed, you'll stay turned towards the target, and you'll start to shallow out by dropping your arms about to here, and you can see from my vantage point the club face is really, really open still. But then you do something that's, I think, a little bit of a magic move, which is this lead wrist will go into some amount of flexion, and you can see how that gets the toe a little bit more closed in, and now from here you can rotate, which is what you do. So we see you open at the top, open at P6, which is shaft parallel to the ground, and that club face is, that lead wrist is flexing, and that affects the face. And then you have this beautiful move where you rotate everything together, and there's not a lot of face manipulation through impact like we would generally see for players with open club faces.
Yep. So first matchup for you guys, if your club face is wide open, is to add flexion in that lead wrist. So left wrist here is actually flexing. And what's that do to the club face? Close a little bit, and that'll get you able to rotate. So if that's something you're really struggling with, wide open club face coming through impact, or you have this look where you flip it really hard, try adding a little flexion here on the downswing and rotating a little bit more. That's matchup number one.
Yeah, and I think you're dead on. I think it's the feeling of not a lot of rotation to start the downswing. So if players are trying to do this with the weak grip and that extended lead wrist, you want to keep your shoulders turned towards the target, and you'll actually want to slide a little bit. Okay, so now there are variances for everything, right? So we want to make sure that we're not aggressively sliding, overly sliding. Anytime you overdo anything, it's going to be a problem. But there will be a little bit of a lateral bump onto the pressure shift to the left side, and then the arms, because of that, will kind of fall a little to the inside, and that's what Ryan's saying is you're feeling that lead wrist flexing, which will then allow you to rotate.
Yep. And we have some drills on our website for practicing that, because it's an odd move to add into your downswing. So check out some of those drills if that's the route you want to go to match that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are great players that do it. Yourself, obviously. And we look at the tour and you see Jim Furyk has a similar move. Ryan Moore has a similar move. So it's funny that there's some really world-class ball strikers that actually do exactly what we just talked about.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about strong grips now. And you can break that down for us, Dan. Go ahead and walk us through here.
Okay, so when we talk about strong grips, the first thing I look for is on the lead hand, you want to see 2 or 3 of these top knuckles.
Yep.
Okay, and the other thing is when Ryan takes a strong grip, go ahead and do that for me, Ryan.
Yep.
You notice that his lead elbow is going to point more at the target, where if he was doing a weak grip, it would point more at his rib cage. So from the down the line view, you'll see that this elbow is pointing there. You'll probably also see that you can see his left forearm and not his right forearm, and that's just because in order to have a strong grip with the right hand, that hand's working more underneath as opposed to on top, which opens up the shoulders. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And so, Ryan, let's go ahead and take it back to first parallel.
Okay.
Okay, so we're doing the same move that we did with the weak grip, but look what happened to the club face. So the face has the toe pointing a little bit more in, and this is more of a closed, or what I like to see is more of a neutral club face position.
Yep.
Okay, and then go ahead and just go up to the top for me, Ryan. Okay, a lot of different options that you can have at the top of the swing for a closed club face. Typically, with a more strong grip, you're going to see a little bit of cupping that goes on for most players. That would be like a Paul Azinger or a Boo Weekley. Okay, but when we talk about high handicappers that struggle with the strong grip, go up to the top for me, Ryan.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a nice strong grip. The club face is a little different. It's on this right side of the shaft, which is an indicator that the face is a little more shut. And now what we'll see when these players do is they'll still not have any body rotation. They might slide a little forward, okay? And they'll be releasing this right arm really hard, and then go ahead and release it all the way through with the toe turning over. And if you do that, you're going to get a ball that starts significantly to the left, and you're going to hit some pull hooks. Okay, so what we see with better players, or you know, professional players that are matching this up, go ahead and set up for me.
Okay.
Okay, and then let's go to the top. Because the club face is in a stronger position, now what I'd like to see, and what you'll see on the tour players, is you're going to see a lot less slide. In fact, there's just a little bit of pressure moved forward, and now you're going to see a ton of rotation. So if you can go all the way to impact for me, you're going to see that his right elbow remains bent. And then if we look from my angle right here, you're going to see that the club face is square at impact. So the way that he's doing that is by rotating. He's not doing anything with his hands and with his arms. So if you're a player that has more of a strong grip, more of a shut club face, you're going to want to add rotation, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is by not sliding and kind of just feeling like this chest opens up significantly more prior to impact.
Yeah, something I see a lot of with guys with strong grips is they hook the ball. Now, what happens with this closed club face when going down through impact, if I don't rotate and I do any sort of stall and my hands take over, now this club face is going from here to here, dead shut. So the way to fix that and neutralize that is, like Dan just talked about, rotate that club to impact, and we see more of an in to out path with guys with these stronger grips that rotate, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at good players with strong grips, those are the players that, for the most part, that you see on tour, they're going to be a little bit more rotated than perhaps those really weak grips. So guys like a Dustin Johnson is going to be significantly more rotated. A guy like Zach Johnson, I think about Zach Johnson when he's hitting wedges. You know, he's got probably the strongest grip in the game, with the exception maybe being Brendan Steele. But Zach is very passive through the shot, and he gets into this position with his wedges, and the only way to do that would be to have significantly more rotation and less flip and stall. And
like we talked about with the weak grip, subconsciously, whether you know it or not, you're trying to get that face to square up by doing something, some sort of move, like swinging left or flipping with the weak grip. With the strong grip, if you do that, it goes dead left. So your body, your mind is telling you, okay, I can either rotate hard and get it square, or I can drop it in and swing in to out, so that way it's not so closed. The matchup we like is more rotation, because I can rotate as hard as I want. If my hands don't get involved, that club face isn't going to shut.
Yeah, and I think you'll see that there are certain philosophies out there that only talk about getting a strong grip and rotating. And to us, it all starts with our analysis of the player. Are they good at controlling curvature? Because I don't care if you've got a weak grip over like this and you're early extending, which would be one like Jack Nicklaus. I don't think anybody would have changed that golf swing and shouldn't change that golf swing, because obviously he could control curvature. He had a great short game. He was a great putter. And there are some intangible things that I think it's important that we communicate to our players, that it's not just about ball striking. But what is important is that you understand what your tendencies are going to be based on a simple thing like your grip.
Exactly.
So hopefully that helps you guys understand grip and club face relationships, as well as some matchups on the downswing. There's a lot more ways to do it. You know, when you start talking about adding in forearm roll, and we talk about backswing length, so shorter swing versus longer swing. But this video is just a really simplified grip, club face matchups, and then some common things that we see for good players and higher handicappers. Hey guys, thanks for watching our last video. Be sure and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also check us up on social media.
Yep, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go ahead and DM us if you have any questions. Hit that like button, follow us, and happy to help you guys. Look forward to working with you, and we hope to have some more videos coming out here soon.